I think we will call this meeting to order because I got to read this sheet and that'll give us a little more time to vamp. My name is Greg Higgins, Chair of the Natural Resources Commission, and I'm calling this public meeting to order at 7 p.m. on September 2, 2020, in accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order of March 12, 2020, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. We are conducting this meeting virtually to ensure public access to the deliberations of the meeting. The public may access this call through video conferencing or telephone. Following the presentation of the petitioner and questions of the commission, members of the public will have the opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment. If you wish to provide feedback, you will need to raise your hand. If you are video conferencing, go to the participants tab at the bottom of the screen and click on it. Click on it, you'll see the hand. Once that window is open, go to the bottom and click the raised hand, and we will see it. The chair will see it. The chair will call on you, and you may unmute your mic. Please identify yourself with name and address for the record. You can also raise your hand from your phone by dialing *9. That will activate your microphone. If you haven't already done so, please identify yourself on the screen, first and last names. You do this by clicking on the three carrots at the top right of your image box and clicking on the rename feature. All video screens will be turned off with the exception of the commission, Delia, and current petitioner. Once the commission has acted on an application, the petitioner, of course, is free to leave the meeting. Screen sharing will not be permitted unless absolutely necessary. All votes will be taken in roll call. We are recording this meeting, and if anyone else in the public is recording, please let the chair know. In the event that this meeting is Zoom bombed, we are not able to control the meeting and get it back, all matters on the agenda that have not been heard will automatically continue to September 16th, 2020, our next NRC meeting. At this time, I would like to ask the commissioners to introduce themselves. Lynn, to start off.
Huggins.
Judy.
Judy Zombrecker.
Ed
Nardi.
And Nick.
Nick Pappas.
All right. Our first item is the June 17th minutes. Anybody have any issues with them? Go ahead, Nick.
I had several corrections and comments I sent to Karen this afternoon.
Any substantive ones? Are they any merit, or are they just edits?
There were some missing words. I think they're just edits.
Okay. Anyone else?
No.
Anybody got a motion for me?
I move that we approve the June 17, 2020 minutes as amended.
That was Lynn?
That was Lynn Huggins.
Do I have a second?
Second.
That was Nick Pappas, second. All those in favor? I've got a roll call it. Nick?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye.
Okay. For all those, we need to continue 150 Garfield, DEP file number 1371524. And do they both? My sheet doesn't say where we continue to.
Yeah, it does. It says.
Oh, yes, it does. It's 16.
I move that we continue to September 16th without discussion. NOI for Walsh, 150 Garfield Road, DEP file number 1371524.
Do I have a second? Thanks, Ed. All those in favor, Nick?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye.
And I'm aye as well. Okay, another continuance. You want to take it, Nick?
Yeah, to continue to October 7th without discussion, NOI for the Fenn School, 676 Monument Street, DEP file number 1371534.
Second.
Looking for. Thanks, Ed. All those in favor, Lynn?
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I'm aye as well. We're going to listen to a brief update from our director, Delia. Go take it away.
Thanks, Greg. Just very briefly, if you have felt like the agendas are more packed than usual, you're right. Permitting is up more than 30% during COVID. We ran the numbers from March 18th to August 31st of this year and compared it to last year, and it's up over 30%. So you're not dreaming if you think your agendas are busier than they normally are. But things are just going along swimmingly. White Pond, speaking of swimming, so White Pond, we did not have summer staff, as you know. So it was a little bit challenging in some ways because we didn't have rangers there to patrol Stations Cove. About 2 weeks ago, we were able to get a furloughed recreation worker to take on some patrol responsibilities at White Pond. So that's helped with that illegal swimming from the cove. But the good thing is that we have seen a reduced amount of algal blooms this year.
Good.
I wanted to let you know about the trails guide that I think I mentioned earlier in the year. I asked Richard Foreman if he would help develop an ecological assessment of some of our more important trails that are on the conservation lands and other adjacent parcels. And he by the horns, he is, working, he's written the majority of this document. It's a phenomenal ecological assessment. And I think that you'll be really pleased with how this is coming out. We hope to have something for you to take a look at, I would say within a month. We've gone through a couple of iterations of it and getting some good feedback from some professional, reviewers, foresters and other ecologists that are taking a look at it, as well as Joan Ferguson from the Land Trust and Chris and Jeff Collins from SVT and Mass Audubon. So hope to have that to you soon to take a look at. And then just on the ecological front, I think you all know that there was a bald eagle that nested at Fairhaven Bay this year. There was an eaglet that successfully fledged, so that's pretty exciting. And Peter Alden also mentioned a pair of loons, not nesting, but present at Walden Pond this year. So that's pretty exciting stuff. And lastly, there was in your email today, which, I apologize for sending you emails late in the day. There was one for a Cuca Road water line revision. And if you'll recall that 4-lot subdivision, they had a looped water main that went from the Paper Street entry from the subdivision and looped through the development and came out onto Main Street up by 800 Main. That was a remnant of a requirement from the Public Works Department when they had originally asked for an 8-lot subdivision, the applicant, and the engineer just carried that through. And now they're requesting, sort of late in the game, but they're requesting that looped main just stub off just past the 4-lot subdivision development. I sent in a letter of support for that because it means that the isolated wetland would not be at all impacted by that. Because this was appealed, DEP is the ultimate permit granting authority. So they've got the ultimate say on it, but they tend to seek local input on these. So just wanted to give you a heads up on that. And that's it for me.
Thank you. Any questions from anyone? Yeah, the loop is not vitally important on 4 lots. If you're down a long dead end, it becomes quite important. All right. Well, moving right along, I think we're going to take up RDA file number 20-7, MBTA right-of-way Fitchburg line. Who is here for this presentation? Please step forward.
Yes, good evening. My name is Clary Kutu. I'm Director of Environmental Compliance and Sustainability for Keolis Commuter Services, operator of the Purple Line Commuter Rail. We're here before you to present to you the RDA for the vegetation management maps for your jurisdiction. The vegetation management plan, as you may be aware, is a 5-year permit issued under the Department of Agricultural Resources. And it is a requirement of DAR that we bring the maps of the different zones required for herbicide application and also that are incorporated within the vegetation management plan. Currently, we're under review of our vegetation management plan for the years of 2021 through 2025. So these maps have not changed, I believe, significantly, if not at all, since the previous permit was issued back in 2015, 2015, I believe. So if that being said, I would like to show, maybe reduce the maps a little so they can, yes, I think that would be better. So we have 3 maps in your jurisdiction. These maps, if you can go up a little bit so we can see the legend, or yes. So these maps depict the areas for no spray, limited spray, and limited spray every 2-year interval. It is critical to understand that these maps not only incorporate resource areas, but also will incorporate wells and private wells, and will include as well the different depictions of zones within the map. So with that being said, I think what I would like to do is open it up for questions, because I think you have seen these maps before, and you might just have questions that I can answer throughout this process.
I have a comment to make, I guess. In your letter to us, you infer that you had been making, we expect to have annual reports, and
Yes.
what we've been receiving is a notification that you're going to do something that year. And that's wonderful to have that notification, and we appreciate that. But we probably should be getting, the end result, what you actually did. If you could make note to have your folks do that, that would be helpful, I think, so we know what did happen. You say you're going to work on a section. What did you actually perform out there? That's one comment I have.
Okay, so are you saying after we conduct the work?
Well, I think you'd have to conduct the work to say what you did, yeah.
Well, unfortunately, we have 103 communities, so it's really not part of the permitted process for us to go back to each community and tell them exactly what it is that we did throughout the year. That would
I thought
be,
in 2015, in our decision, it said that there would be annual reports. That's the only reason I'm asking for it.
what that refers to, if I can share my screen, Delia?
Well, just verbalize it. It's fine with me. I'm not. This is.
Well, I would like
This is a
to show
minor
you.
point, but I think it just needs to be said. Yeah, go ahead.
I would like to present to the commission how they can, at any given time, at any time during and throughout the year, they can access the information. So I was just going to show you where all that information is currently, and it's a website that was included within the application on the cover letter. Every year, the commission will receive at the beginning of the year a package via certified mail, but the Board of Selectmen will receive it as well, and the Board of Health. And that package of information will identify where you need to go to actually see the yearly operating plan being
So Clary, I think the difference between is that notification that we received that Greg referenced. It's a notification of the work that was done and where to go to learn more information about that proposed work. But
right.
We had asked in 2015 or 16, when that last permit was issued, that the MBTA provide us with annual reporting on the work that had been completed. And it's not you coming back to the commission and giving a verbal update. It's just a written report that says, this is where we were in Concord, and this is what we did in Concord.
So I don't know what was necessarily offered at the time. What we do have that would be beneficial are the copies of the spray activity that was done during each year. We have to maintain copies of these. Would that suffice, Delia? These are copies that go to that are available for the spray that's conducted every day,
Well, that,
every area. Would that suffice?
So if it's a recording or a reporting of what was completed, where was the work done and what work was done specifically, so that we had a record of what activities were performed, then that would be exactly what we're looking for.
Okay, I'll see to that. We
All
did.
right.
Is spraying the only activity that you would be doing?
No, we approach vegetation management as an integrated pest management activity. So I'm of the opinion that the less that we spray, the better it is. However, the FRA requires us to maintain the roadbed completely free of vegetation, which means that the spray will always happen along the roadbed. However, where we can avoid spraying would be those areas that we need to do mechanically. So for areas that are yellow in your maps that we cannot spray, or areas within the zone 1, zone 2, or interim wellhead protection areas, those areas will most likely receive mechanical because they cannot be sprayed.
And is that work recorded also, that the commission would be able to?
Not in the same way, because DAR actually regulates all the licensed applicators, and they by law have to follow a specific criteria of information they need to log on a daily basis. So what I do have is a specific map that is coded georeferenced that I can access, and it will tell me when and where was vegetation cut. So that can be, a possibility.
the FRA, is that Federal Railroad Association or something? What is that? Authority?
Administration.
Act, Federal Railroad Act.
Okay. And they require the 80 feet be cleared from side A to side B all the way?
I'm not sure where you got the 80 feet, sir.
So what, I don't know, how wide is your,
Right.
how wide is your right of way in our town?
Oh, that's really complicated because each right of way within each town is very different. It depends on whether there are 2 tracks or 1 track. And even sometimes when there is 1 track, there is absolutely, larger property lines. So within each town, it varies significantly.
Well, but simplify the question. The question is, are you required to, irregardless of how wide it is, are you required, no matter what the width is, to clean from side A to the right side, to the left side every year?
The FRA does not precisely do that, specifically because what they're more inclined to regulate as a safety requirement is the roadbed and the adjacent shoulders. So,
Well,
for
that's-
example, each
yeah,
railroad, and I apologize that there is no specific response to that, that you might be, looking
Well,
for.
it just seems, but to get to my point is, then you're not required to keep the entire right of way clear. You're only required to keep the right-of-way clear for safety purposes, et cetera. Is that what I'm hearing?
Nope, you're misinterpreting my words. So let me clarify. The right-of-way for the MBTA, the minimum requirement is property line to property line. However, if we were to go from the center line out 40 feet, that is the ideal span. However, because the right-of-way varies in different locations and in different towns, we actually only manage up to the right-of-way property line. However, if it is a requirement, for example, sometimes we go through and we have trees that are at risk because these trees have been evaluated under the ANSI A300 method by an arborist, then we would go to that community or go to that neighbor and let them know that their tree is at risk. And it is up to that community or that neighbor to cut back the tree or let us cut it for them.
So the Federal Railroad Act requires you to clear from right-of-way side to right-of-way side, yes or no?
The entire right-of-way, yes.
Okay.
We need to maintain the entire right-of-way so that there are no risks to the trains.
No, I just wanted to get it clear. And could you just send that citing to staff so we have that in the jacket on this petition, so we have
Yes,
that
it's
requirement.
actually, yes, it's actually within the RDA, I believe, as a reference in the letter. It's, I believe, 246 or CFR, 246 CFR or CFR 126.
All right.
But it is
Moving
also,
along.
I would encourage you to also visit the website listed in the RDA application, which actually has the VMP, and it really does detail all those elements.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The other thought that I had was that you don't use local wetlands and mapping, which I think is far more accurate than using the one you do. Why don't you? You don't. We're not asking you to, but you don't flag the wetlands. So we're dealing in somewhat, best evidence without doing that. And it seems best evidence would be the local wetlands mapping in Concord. What's your thought on that?
So what we do is we utilize the MassGIS layers and also the USGS layers. We also receive information from DAR for wells and private wells. But to actually map over 5,000 acres of delineate, each community like that would be would be significant. So what it is required of us for the permit is to actually map the lines based on the zones that were identified. And these zones have been identified for many years. All railroads use the same zone classification. So when they went out and mapped, excuse me?
Okay. I say it's a cost savings. I mean, it's not best evidence, but it suffices for the purposes
Of the permit. The permit
Yeah,
requirements are, yes, correct.
So I will just point out that the permit, so you're asking for a delineation approval using National Wetlands Inventory Mapping, which is a federal layer of wetlands delineation, which is probably the least accurate. It doesn't use mass wetlands, and the Wetlands Conservancy District mapping that Concord has done is far more accurate because it was done with on-the-ground truthing. So I think it would be helpful if those maps that you have provided in the application can be updated so that you're using the Wetlands Conservancy District that's included. I can send you the shape files so that you can use those.
Okay. will that change the zones?
Yes, it will change.
You think?
I do. I'll do a screen share here and I'll show you where I think it, I mean, this is just one example. So this is, you know, a wetland here at just south of Neshoba Road. Here's the rail and here's
Yeah.
NWI wetlands here. And then if you look at it, it's not quite the same scale now, but you can see it extends over onto this side here. So you would have to also commit to changing those spray zones in the fields.
So the spray zone, are you saying that it's different in terms of length, that it's larger?
In most cases, the more accurate Concord Wetlands Conservancy District layer is larger than the NWI mapping. So just going back to.
And how about the Mass GIS layer?
So that's going to be more accurate than the NWI wetlands.
Okay.
Is accurate.
So what you see here, that light blue, based on what you showed me, will not change. That light blue.
So you would
will
have
not
to
change.
evaluate that, Clary. I mean, I can't tell you if that would change or not, just flipping between screens. You'd have to look at that and see if that is actually the case. I mean, you'd need to make that, you'd need to demonstrate that.
Any other thoughts from any other commissioners?
I have one more question, Greg. And I
Sure,
think,
yeah.
and that specifically is that, Delia, you noted that the wetland boundary was a 5-year approval and it expires on December 2020. Does the fact that that expires on 2020, does that have an impact on this application, or is that just background information for us?
It doesn't have an impact on what happened this year in terms of the yearly operating plan. It will, whatever does move forward from January on, that's what it is for.
So does that mean that we need to have a delineation of the wetlands updated prior to
the
approval?
No, I wouldn't,
requirement-
I'm not saying that you need a delineation of the wetlands.
I'm sorry. Okay, I was thinking to understand that.
Right.
Okay.
So I
Right,
guess what we
So what
could
I'm
do
suggesting is that
go to
instead
the
of using
site.
the NWI wetlands layer, the Wetlands Conservancy District be used in place of that.
Okay.
Accurate assessment of the it's not it's not our standard wetlands delineation approval, but
Mhm.
the way that the DAR regulations are sort of coupled with the wetlands regulations in terms of MBTA vegetation management,
Mhm.
that's how they don't require that each of the communities' wetlands are delineated on the ground.
Right. So that's kind of my point of why you want to use the best evidence we have
Yeah.
so that we don't have to go and do all that. extra.
Right.
Clary, you were
Right.
going to say something. I'm sorry, you got interrupted, please.
No, I think it's a valid point. I think these maps are intended to come to your community every 5 years or every 3 years and every year thereafter, so that if there is a change, Delia, like you have mentioned now, which we didn't know because we weren't told about, we can actually do the confirmation on the ground. Now, the layers that you're talking about might be within 10, 20, 30 feet of the track in terms of changes. And in that case, that blue line will not change from the 1-year interval.
Right.
So because it still is conforming to the DAR and Wetlands Protection Act resource area requirements for herbicide application. So what we could do is do a site visit and check that particular area that Delia, that you are concerned about.
I think if you use the Wetlands Conservancy District, that's a layer that we're comfortable with for this sort of an application.
Well, you know what it would do one time at least, Clary, is if you were willing to take a look at those and have your people superimpose them and see what the delta really is.
Right.
And then next meeting, get back to us and say, hey, guys, it's 5 feet max, or it's 55 feet, and we should take a look at it. If you would do that, I think that would pretty much sum up any of our queries on this, and we'd be able to have a handle on how accurate it is, and we can move on. I don't think we need to, we don't have the answer here tonight, so if you'd be willing to do that, I think we could, we could get this wrapped up rather
And
quickly
those
next meeting, right?
Okay, and I think that's fair enough. Are those layers available through your town website?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
So
I'll tell Matt.
the layers are not, I will send you those.
They are.
Well, they are just on a map, but to place them, to take the shape file and put them onto a graphic, they need the actual shape file.
Okay,
Okay.
good. So I'll
Well,
send
then
an
you
email
provide
to
that
Matt
to us.
on that.
Mhm.
Well, any
Okay,
other
I have-
questions we have?
Yeah, I have
Go ahead, Judy.
the other question I have is that Clary mentioned that there is also mechanical removal. And so the question for us is that appropriate under doing an RDA, or does that require order of conditions if it's going to include mechanical removal of vegetation in the right of way?
So I've had this question many times. If from town to town, we were to have order of conditions for each and every time that we need to cut or manually maintain the shoulders of the right of way, it's significant, it's extraordinary and quite remarkable. So
So-
devegetation, but if I may.
Sorry, I'm sorry, just to interrupt. I'm sorry. This question was asked and answered in 2018 when MBTA cleared the rail
Right.
of all vegetation with mechanical removal. Got a ton of calls because we were not advised that this was happening.
Correct.
Same thing happened in at least 3 other communities. You
All
and I
communities.
with Rachel Freed, the section chief of DEP, and
Right.
she agreed that that work is not exempt under the Wetlands Protection Act and that an NOI was required for that. So Judy, in a short answer to your question, yes, mechanical removal is not something that can be permitted through this process.
Right.
I know that, so, the MBTA and DEP are working on getting an exemption to that within the regulation. Does not currently exist at the moment. So,
However, through the jurisdiction of the permitted, the Department of Agricultural Resources, which is 333 CMR 11, which is the jurisdiction that actually permits the vegetation management plan integrated approach, it is covered. So that is something that's,
it's
we're
covered
not
under
gonna resolve.
DAR, but not under the WPA. So,
Right.
so which is why, Judy, I had put in my recommendation to the that it's solely a determination of approving the wetland boundaries and herbicide application, because that is exempt with an approved wetland boundary.
Right.
Any, removal of any further removal of the, mechanical removal of the vegetation is not something that I would recommend gets permitted until that's either included in an exemption in the WPA regs, or you file a notice. And that's, I think, how, I would recommend that Concord handles it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Nick, did I see you had a question?
No.
Oh, your screen lit up. Any further comments from the commission? Anybody out in the public there at large have any input into this? I'd appreciate you jumping in at this point. We always wait a few minutes. It'd be nice to resolve that conflict, by the way, between the authorities.
Yeah.
But if you would have the wetlands thing looked at, that would really be appreciated by us at this point. And I don't imagine, given the amount of work you did cutting things in 2018. I doubt there's much to be done anyways at this point, but I don't see any comments. So I guess we'll continue. Next meeting is the 16th. Not sure you could get all your, if Delia's got to get you some plans and your guys got to get to look at the wetlands to delineate, you couldn't possibly get that done by Friday, could you, Clary?
By this Friday? I would have to check with Matt to see. It depends on whether we can get the shape files, Delia, tomorrow. I mean, it's a pretty simple.
I can send you the shape files tomorrow. That's easy to do.
Yeah. Why don't we just continue to the 16th, and if we need to, and if you need to bump it out one more meeting, so be it. That's what we'll do. So we'll go to the 16th, which is the shortest. We need a motion on that. Continue this till the 16th.
I make a motion that we continue the hearing for Keolis Commuter Services, RDA file 20-7 to September 16th, 2020.
Do we have a second?
Second.
That was Judy. Nick Pappas, second. All those in favor? Ed, please.
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I'm aye as well. Okay, Clary, hope to see you on the
Thank you.
16th or subsequent meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good night.
All right, moving right along. Next is notice of intent, file number 137-1504, address 43 Old Bedford Road. Who is here in regards to this?
Yes, good evening. My name is Matt Morrow. I'm here on behalf of the applicant.
Welcome.
Thank you. So I don't know if you guys are going to screen share.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was. Sorry, 1 second.
It's okay.
She takes those little naps. It's good for her, you know?
I just had to reboot my computer. It totally froze. So I'm happy I got back on.
For some reason, let's see.
So we've been at this before, and you're coming back trying to put a garage in. What can you tell us?
Okay, so I submitted a planting narrative, and I believe that's actually one of the former plans. The revised plan shows a 1,500 square foot planting area, which takes into account the 1-to-1 that's in the buffer zone, and there is 93 square feet for the proposed garage that is in the 50-foot zone. Now, I went back to the building commissioner, and I do believe that the office also has a copy. You guys may also have a copy. I went to the building commissioner. The building commissioner gave me all of the setbacks for all of the lines on that lot. It was very nice of him to draw it out diagrammatically. In speaking with my client, the garage that we have here is optimally placed for functionality because my clients are getting more advanced in age, and they're putting in the garage so that they don't have to park down on the driveway downstream and turn around and have to navigate snow and ice. The garage is situated so that it makes sense as far as logistically with the house. We looked at putting it on the other side. Obviously, with the way the house is built, it wouldn't logistically work. It would also involve a lot more work in the 100-foot buffer zone because the area there is a hillside. Also, I would note that in examining the area in question, you have an endangered species habitat that actually surrounds the entire lot. It's not on the lot itself, but it actually surrounds the entire lot. Amazingly enough, the shape of the polygon is exactly the shape around the lot. So the lot lines in the lot itself are not included, but all the surrounding territory is. So the particular placement of the garage actually keeps it farther away as far as possible from the rare species habitat. The planting plan that is in place is geared to utilize the planting of shrubs more at the start of the driveway coming off the dirt portion of the road going into the driveway area to allow for a vegetative buffering for stormwater runoff, which has a tendency to come off on that side of the street. And then the remainder of the 1,500 would essentially be herbaceous plantings. That's about it. I'm trying to be as concise as possible with my presentation.
No, I appreciate it. I think you did cover. Here, you know that we are extraordinarily reluctant to allow structures in the 50-foot, we call it, no-build zone. And there are times when if you had a structure, like the corner of your house is 46 feet, then an addition maybe we'd allow within 46 feet because it didn't further intrude. But whereas the house is clearly beyond the 50, I'm looking at the garage and my question to you is, I believe, if I'm correct, that you could come within 15 feet of the, I don't have a rose on what I'm looking at, but let's say the east. I'm reading proposed garage, slide it through the lot line, you could be within 15 feet, which would pull the front right corner of your garage further away from the wetlands. Why is that not a viable solution?
Okay, so we did examine that. I actually originally submitted a garage that showed it within 15 feet. Unfortunately, the shape of the garage doesn't wind up changing as far as the box outline to the degree that would make it meaningful and useful for the house. The way the house is situated, it wouldn't make sense building-wise to be able to build it that way. Putting it where it is now actually keeps it situated with the building.
When you say it doesn't work with the house, can you describe what that means? Why doesn't it? It's on the same wall. What's the issue?
Well, the way the garage is situated now, it would be built square off the house. To put the garage back, it would not be built square off the house.
Why?
Because if you look at the way, I don't know if you guys got a screen up.
So apologies, this was,
I think we're on the other side. We need the other side of the
hold
line.
on, yep.
What I'm saying is if the common wall with the proposed garage and the common with the house, you just slide it back on that common wall till it hits 15 feet, and that should increase your distance from 40 feet to 40 plus, some number. I don't know the geometry exactly, but it seemed to be significant. It would move that corner 6 feet back. Yes?
Yeah, actually about, when you're
5
done
feet.
situating it, about 4 feet.
Well, why isn't that, if that's, my point is, we require to do something like this, it's very difficult for us to not have you examine all alternatives and define why those alternatives wouldn't be used. It's just our policy, and it's the only way we can sort of manage all our applicants is to have a common understanding of how we manage our rules and regulations, and that's how we do it. So if you can slide that back and save 6 feet, there's 6 feet, you're 6 feet further away, which means you're 46 feet, which, then you might look at some other alternative to make up the delta or not be able to and come back with a hardship situation. But until you do that, you don't have a hardship.
Okay, I can speak to my client on that.
I mean, I'm just, we're very reluctant to let structures go into the 50.
No, I can totally appreciate that. I will speak to my client. If you look here was the actual other alternative that I had submitted. I will bring this alternative back to my client. What would wind up happening is it would optimally move the garage 45 feet back, and the reduction would be to 27 square feet within the 50 foot. And then when you do the planting, based according to your 1-to-1 and then your 10-to-1, it will wind up reducing the planting to 848 square feet.
And they're doing a 24-foot wide garage. I mean, if they, you know, I know plenty of garages that are double garages at 22 feet. I'm not advocating that. I'm just saying that, you know, if you show, you know, I think it's helpful if you sort of answered and looked at all alternatives and given the reason why I mean, your answer about putting it on the other side and having to do all grading and everything like this starts to lead to the answer of, well, that's a hardship, and do we really want to go that route? We can hang our hat on a reason that wouldn't require you to do that on the other side of the house. And I think you need to sort of come up with the same thoughtful plan on this side of the house, such that you've exhausted alternatives that would make it better. That's all. Are you with me, Matt?
Yes, I am, sir.
Okay. Does anyone else have any? I mean, that's my
No.
total thought on this. Does anybody else have any thoughts on this?
No, I think that encapsulates the concerns that we have spot on.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Yeah. Not hearing anything from the commission. I go out to the public, please. Raise your hand or what, or I guess we could take this down now so that I can see if somebody does something. I don't see anything. So Matt, if you would do that and talk to your client and try to explain to your client that we have the burden of representing the town on multiple sites with all kinds of nuances, of which they have their nuances, and we try to keep a very consistent policy as to how we do it. And I think if you do, you've got to have a waiver that comes in that speaks to the waiver criteria in the zoning bylaw as to that you've exhausted things and why it's beneficial to do what you did, what you want, what you're presenting. Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
Other than that, I guess we continue to the 16th, and of course, hopefully you could get back by Friday.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Make a
Thank you very
motion for
much.
that continuance.
Thank you, Judy.
Make a motion to continue notice of intent for Shaw 43 Old Bedford Road, DEP file 137-1504 to September 16th, 2020.
Thank you, Ed. Nick. That was Nick seconding. All those in favor, Nick?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
Len?
Aye.
And I'm aye as well. Look forward to seeing you on the 16th, Matt.
All right, guys, take care. Stay safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. 7:20. Oh, it's much past 7:20. We're dragging it. Next up is a notice of intent, file number 137-1536, 1134 Main Street. Do we have a representative here? Hello? We must have somebody here representing this. Your mic might be, I can't see anybody, so your mic might be muted. Who is here representing 1134 Main Street?
Yeah, Alan Roscoe is here.
Oh, hi, Alan. I see you now.
Yeah.
Super. Okay.
Another technical difficulty here. I wasn't sure if I was
That's
ready to
okay.
be
I have
unmuted. Yeah. Good
No
evening,
problem.
folks. How is everyone?
Good.
We're here tonight to discuss this Chase Bank project. With me this evening is Joe Tomeno, the property owner. He's kind of my shadow, kind of all-seeing, all-knowing, kind of watches over me.
Right.
So yeah, this is DEP file number 137-1536. We submitted revised drawings mainly to document the impervious areas and just the relevant data that the commission really needs to see. And we reconciled all of that and added some of the missing data to the page in the NOI that refers to areas that may be altered or jurisdictional zones and so forth. So that's been reconciled, and we resubmitted our drawings and added relevant sheets that dealt with the extent of the floodplain at each relevant elevation. And we also submitted CAD files to the commission and to the planning board to have at their disposal for town staff to review, to address the issues with the floodplain and the riverfront zones. So that's the nature of the resubmittal, and most of that information is shown here on the page that is presented. For the benefit of those in the audience, this is a redevelopment project, so it's an existing bank, and it's going to be improved to a better bank with a better site design, more efficient parking, and better placement of the building so that it's walkable and accessible to the street sidewalks. It is not an addition to any park or boat launch project. This is a commercial redevelopment. So I just wanted to put that out there for those that are listening. So again, we reconciled and provided additional data, and some of the changes that we had to make included changing the surface of the trash enclosure from a concrete pad to a durable crushed stone so that we could get the pervious balance within the riverfront zone corrected. And we made some lighting modifications to address planning board concerns. And again, we changed all of the relevant data, including in the zoning table for impervious lot coverage, and finally corrected the parking tabulation by removing one of the ATMs that was going to be placed in a lobby. But part and parcel, this is the appearance of the same project that you saw last time, and just the additional information all reconciled and presented in these data tables so that it's easily accessible to those who are reviewing the project. But we think that this is a good project. It meets the performance standards for bordering land subject to flooding for the riverfront zone, and we've still achieved an overall site reduction in impervious area with, the related reductions in stormwater and the likes. So we think we've addressed all the comments brought out to date, and we'd like to have this project move forward to the next step.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Alan. I think your statement is somewhat spot on in many respects. This is a redo of an already heavily used up in terms of tar and pavement and building site. And so I think you've done a good job. And I think finally we have the information it appears that we need. I think the one thing I would say as chair here is that when we've got a few letters and what have you that have come in on today from you, and I think my suggestion is to see if the commission had any questions, and then to acknowledge that we may need staff and maybe county engineers to finish their analysis of what you've presented, because it's impossible for us to digest this on the fly here. So having said that, I'm looking for the commission. Does anybody have any thoughts other than that? Feel free to.
I would second the need for time to digest and appreciate the information that came in today.
Yeah, I think we got it, and I think we're in good stead. I just think it would be improper to not have staff have a little bit of time to make sure that everybody's on board with this. We've got it on the plans, and what I would suggest is that a stamp get put on this plan, so that somebody takes professional responsibility for these plans, and we have a complete set that we are accepting and going forward with. I don't see any issue here, other than I think we should just cross our Ts and dot our Is.
And one thing that I would point out, and I think, Alan, I think you're aware of this, sheets 4 and 5, C4 and C5 are not, they're not fully reconciled with the information that you submitted in the narrative today. So the impervious table that is in the document that we received today is that sheets 4 and 5 still need to be reconciled. I think that you have, I think you need to be able to just demonstrate or just state in the hearing tonight that those numbers are accurate in your new submittal, because I think you've looked at that, but I think that needs to be discussed before the commission can move forward on any actions that they might want to tonight.
Understood. And, we talked earlier and exchanged emails today. So yes, it was pointed out by some of the reviewers that C4 and C5 weren't entirely reconciled. So we are going to fix that and resubmit. But, the data tables themselves on the drawings were resubmitted in time for review. And the information from today was really in response to, a cry from the public. So we, granted, we received the letter on Friday, but I didn't have a chance to address it until yesterday. And then the letter was finished today and submitted. So the letters today really only repeat the data tables that are shown on the drawings already. So I would think that if anybody in staff had an issue with the submitted materials, back 2 weeks ago, it should have come
Well,
out.
so again, I'm just going to say that I raised this issue several weeks ago, that sheets C4 and C5 were different. The impervious surface numbers in those sheets did not.
Understood. And we will fix it.
Right, and you have acknowledged that in the information that you submitted today, but I'm just trying to be clear that if you can speak to why those discrepancies are there and how those are being reconciled, I think that'd be helpful.
Yeah, it's an oversight. We were working on the drainage design. Those sheets really only talk about the stormwater design. And so those really stayed unchanged. They tried to track, the physical changes, but the actual data in a small note did not follow along. So, when we changed parking spaces and that configuration, those changes on the plan itself did change, but the data didn't follow along. So, we are going to correct that and resubmit before Friday. But, the meat and potatoes of this is that, this has been the same plan that has been under review for the last few weeks.
Right,
So
understood.
to the extent that we could move this forward and perhaps get a positive recommendation, with a condition of town staff, they're already reviewing it for the planning board. So, we would like to maintain our schedule if at all possible.
Not sure exactly whether we could issue a decision.
Well,
I think we're there. I think we're there, Alan. Go ahead, Lynn.
we've issued contingent recommendations before. So
Yeah.
That's the recommendation to the ZBA we're talking about?
Yeah, that's
I think
correct.
Okay.
I think we could issue a recommendation to the ZBA without closing, couldn't we?
yeah, we've done that before.
Yeah.
Right.
Just
So if that's what
in the
you're speaking, Alan,
applicant
I think we could keep, in your favor, we could keep the ball down the road.
Right.
recognizing that the applicant has deadlines and we're all working under difficult circumstances.
Right.
Right.
But as I recall, we've never closed and issued a permit without having engineering drawings that have been stamped.
Right.
No.
Right.
So we can't close an issue because we don't have
Correct.
final engineering
Well,
drawings.
but could we, let me ask for public comment right this second, though, just before I make a statement. Is there anyone out there in the public that we wish to speak on this? Just give everybody in case they ran to the fridge for another beer. All right, I don't see anybody that wants to speak. My suggestion then might be to seek a motion to maybe send an affirmation to the Board of Appeals accepting this proposal pending a full set of plans stamped in staff's hands by Friday. And then I think it's a fait accompli for the next meeting. Just, once we know that it's all done by everybody, we can close an issue. Does that work? Somebody want to make that was a terrible attempt at advising somebody of a motion. Lynn, you want to give it a shot?
Well, I would move that we issue a letter to the ZBA that
Yes.
are leaning to a favorable recommendation contingent on the NRC receiving final modified plans and confirmation on the drainage issues.
Could you modify that for me with stamped plans? I would like to see stamped plans.
Stamped plans, I thought that went without saying. Okay.
By noon Friday.
Right. What the,
Absolutely.
And so the
Do I have
motion,
a-
do you want the motion to be leaning towards a recommendation or a recommendation?
I think I think a recommendation contingent on.
Okay,
So that should be clear that if those issues aren't completed, our recommendation is nullified.
right. Okay,
Do I have a second?
second?
Ed Nardi seconded. All those in favor, Nick?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye.
And I'm aye as well. It's unanimous, Alan.
right,
Go
well,
forth.
thanks
if
for
you
your
get them,
consideration.
Please get them in Friday, get them stamped just so we know everything's buttoned up and we should be able to let this dog sleep for a while.
Friday noon, please.
Thank you.
Yes, no problem. Thank you so much for your consideration, folks. Have a great evening.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for coming in. All right, moving along. We have the Concord Country Club needs to put in some piping.
Craig?
Who's here? This is notice of intent file number 137-1538.
Craig?
That's me.
Lynn
Who's using
Huggins?
my name?
Greg, Lynn Huggins.
Hi, Lynn.
I'm going to recuse myself as I do on country club matters. So I'm
That's
going
right.
to mute myself and I'll come back in later.
Also,
Super.
Greg, do we need to have a motion to continue the core states group hearing to September 16th?
Yes, thank you.
I make
We sure do, Judy. Thanks for watching my tail. Could you make
Sure.
that motion, please?
Yes, I make a motion to extend continue the hearing for notice of intent, core states group, 1134 Main Street, DEP file 1371536 to September 16th, 2020.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Nick? I don't know who that was.
Nick.
That was Nick, yes.
Hi, Nick. Thank you, Nick. Nick seconded. All those in favor, Nick?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
And I'm aye as well. That's a majority. We don't need Lynn to step on that. So we continue that 16. Thank you, Judy, very much on that, by the way.
Welcome.
Okay, please. We're into the Concord Country Club DEP file number 137-1538, redoing some water mains and what have you.
Hi, I'm Dave Crossman with B&C Associates representing the Country Club.
Yep.
We're filing for 4 small projects. 3 of them involve replacing existing pipes that run through the brook. Currently, the pipes are about halfway down the bank. So during the springtime, they're at the top of the water, and they can catch small articles of debris and what have you that flow down the stream, and sometimes they create a little blockage. The country club is proposing to replace those. First, we're going to cut the existing pipes at the edge of the bank and cap each end, so there'll be no further blockage of the brook. And then they're going to jack new pipe under the brook in all three locations. The proposed depth of the jack is 10 feet under the brook. So we're looking at doing the drilling access pits 10 feet off each side of the brook. The company that does it likes to go back 5 feet for every foot that they go down underneath whatever they're crossing. So the pits are 4 feet by 4 feet by 4 feet. They dig the hole, they put the dirt in a dump truck and carry that outside the resource areas. They jack the pipe underneath, and they come back and fill it in. They tell me that each crossing will take 1 day each. From the access pits, we're going to tie into existing pipes elsewhere in the country club to get the water back through there. But that's all the work is in the fairways. There's no wooded area that we're altering, and I guess that's pretty much the basis of that plan. The fourth area is a small golf cart crossing. It has a culvert in an intermittent stream, which is currently collapsing, and they would like to just replace that culvert. So we would just dig out the top of the cart path and pull the pipe out, replace it with exactly the same pipe, and put everything back exactly the way it is now. We're not proposing to change any elevations. There'll be no filling, no cutting of grades. And hopefully by this time next year, everything will look just the same way it does today. And I guess that's what we're asking permission to do. All the work is within the riverfront area, obviously, within the inner riparian zones. So, we trying to protect everything as much as we can, and we pulled everything back as far as we can get away from the brook. The drilling company definitely wants to go at least 10 feet under the brooks.
No, that's fine. I mean, they know, I'm sure they know better than we know. Is that it, Dave?
Yep.
We do have the temporary flood alterations documented. I think Delia said you got those, or somebody got those through her, which was something we were looking for. I note in the notes from our staff, there's the water chestnut issues in places. Is there any thought on if you can't pull that out by hand and clean that up a mite? Has that been brought up to you?
I haven't heard about that myself, but perhaps
I
Peter.
just see it in my notes here from them that they recommend a special condition about that. I didn't know whether you'd been spoken to about that or not.
I haven't heard about it, but I'm sure that if we want to put that in as a special condition, we're not opposed to, eliminating any invasives in the wetlands or upland.
Yeah, well, the water chestnuts, they get going and then suddenly they're gone. They take over. That's all. I mean, it's a good thing you're doing. So I'm in favor of it. Any other questions of the commission?
No.
No.
I see all shake. The public, who out in the public would like to weigh in here?
I had a couple questions.
Please, identify yourself and address.
Certainly. My name is Bernd Comgene, and I live on 99 Williams Road, and the Jenny Dugan Brook past our property. And so
Yeah.
we're concerned about any potential impacts to the brook, especially given some of the recent events in that area. And I know the NRC has been actively involved in reviewing and assessing the proposal and, the specifics, and we're very grateful for all that. But I just had some very basic questions about this proposal submitted because it didn't answer the questions I had about specifically why this is needed. Is it routine maintenance or an upgrade? It's referenced as both in the paperwork. And I know they indicated that the system needs to be made more efficient, but I was also unclear as to what that meant. In terms of, does that increase the flow of water? What does it mean in terms of efficiency? And also, I know they said there's no alternatives. I just wanted to know if this had any link to the irrigation pond project, because at that time in the spring when paperwork was submitted for the pond project, there were very clearly stated that there were no additional infrastructure modifications required, just the pond and linking that pond to the existing infrastructure. So I was curious as to why this issue didn't come up at that time.
I'll let Peter.
Okay.
Hi, Peter Rapocho, golf course superintendent at the Concord Country Club. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us tonight. The answer to your question is the main lines are, yes, they are replacement as an annual replacement. The old main lines, or the ones that we're going to replace, are typically cast iron. So they are subject to degradation and, they get holes, they leach, everything else. Not leach, but they break down. The new pipes that we're putting in will be considered an upgrade is high density poly pipe, which is much more stronger, much more durable, lasts significantly longer. So this portion of it is annual replacement of it. This portion of the project is just, like I said, is our basic maintenance we have to do for the irrigation system over X amount of years. The current system is 20-something years old. So that's why these pipes are getting replaced, and they're going under the stream because we're having issues with the pipes that are currently in the stream catching all kinds of silt and debris and, weeds and becoming a nuisance for, water to flow through the property.
So the pipes are being replaced throughout the course, and this is just happens to be in an area under NRC jurisdiction.
The main lines that cross through the streams are getting replaced. These three stream crossings are the ones we're doing.
But when you say increased efficiency, what does that mean?
Well, I think in terms of efficiency, you're looking at these pipes are, much more, they're high density poly. They're going to last significantly longer than the other ones. They're not subject to, rust or contamination buildup, iron buildup, which happens inside of cast iron pipes. Your mainline pipe will actually decrease in size, kind of like an artery, where the high density poly is less subject to that because of the internal lining of it, plastic, so less stuff sticks. So you have better flow through the pipe, even though it's the same size pipe.
Well,
So-
I think the question, because I don't really think we're as interested in the pipe as we are the ramifications on the stream. So I think to follow up the question, not in terms of efficiency, although that's an interesting way of looking at it, what, if any, change will there be when this project is finished to the stream flow?
To the stream flow? I'm sorry, Greg Sincato, General Manager of Concord Country Club. You're asking what's the change in the stream flow?
Well, I think in our jurisdiction, I'm not so interested in what type of pipe you put in, although, I do have to, just from practical standpoint, realize that some kind of poly piping would last longer than an iron pipe, which is fine, meaning you probably wouldn't have to mess around the river or the brook stream as often, which I guess is a benefit. But the question I have is there any alteration to the flow of the stream as a result of what you're doing? Will there be?
There will be no alteration to the flow, and will actually increase, well, not increase, but we won't be blocking up the flow as it has been happening now with the existing pipes running right through the middle of, or near the top of the brook itself.
I think that's what we are, as commissioners, that's what we would keep our eyes on, is that question, not, obviously, I guess if you were going to put in iron pipe over poly pipe, we'd have a problem with that because you'd need it. But any further questions? Vern, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, no, I appreciate what you said. You're absolutely right. I mean, that is, our concern is the impact on the stream. The reason I brought up the efficiency was just that was in their justification. When they state why they're doing this project, they bring up efficiency, why there's no alternatives. And so you're absolutely right. That is our primary concern, is what is the potential impact? And
as it is our concern, and I just want it stated by the petitioner that we are to see no change adversely of the flow of the river. We're not adding water. We're not relocating it. Matter of fact, we're trying to do. Sounds like they're trying to do everything but touch the river of the brook. That is.
Yeah, I mean, and it was also just my question of how necessary is the project, because obviously, even though they're minimizing the disturbance, there still is a significant disturbance, and I appreciate all the efforts of the NRC to minimize that and address the chestnut trees and all those things. But I'm saying they're saying there's no alternative. But my point was just in the spring, they didn't note this as being a necessary project. Now they're saying there's no alternative. We need this to, and so if the assessment was that cast iron would be sufficient for the next 5 years and then it would deteriorate to a point where replacement was imminent, I could understand. So I was just trying to get clarification of why now and, how do they make this determination, particularly because they have this whole other pond project that was going on. And I was told initially that there was some tree trimming and maintenance done along the periphery of the course, but it ended up being 4 acres of clear cutting. So I have to admit, I'm a little skeptical nowadays in terms of these things.
I have some understanding of where you're coming from. But I think our interest is the stream, and it sounds like the stream is going to be enhanced in the sense that it won't need this for a longer period of time, certainly than if we left an iron pipe and it happened to burst, and then they would have to go in and make an emergency repair, which probably is much more invasive than.
Certainly understand.
Any other questions? But I appreciate your questions, and I understand your caution.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions from anybody out there? 10-9-8-7-6-5-4-3-2-1. Not seeing any. So I guess it looks like I think we're okay with this, guys. Does the commission think that we can give a thumbs up to this as long as we've got to draw up, of course, the conditions and add in the water chestnuts and stuff, Dave, and move this off until the 16th for a vote. Does that work for you guys?
And also include the temporary floodplain impacts. Is that part of what's needed?
That staff has now put that in.
Oh, okay.
So that will be part of it. I know
We got those yesterday, Judy.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, we just got that, so we can't, it's not even ready to be looked at, but we will get that in our packets and be able to be on board and knowledgeable. And it would get in time for the public to also review.
Okay. Do you need a motion?
Please, I would love one.
Okay, make a motion to continue the notice of intent for Concord Country Club, 246 Ornac, DEP file 1371539 to September 16th of 2020.
Did I hear a second?
The agenda said 1371538. Or one document I have says that.
What my document says 1539.
Okay.
Mine says 38.
Well, mine says 1538.
Oh, I've got 2 different numbers. Okay, I'll go with 38. That sounds like the consensus. Sorry about that.
Well,
Thank you.
there's a difference.
Mine says 1539.
Okay, there's a difference between the agenda and the thumbnail. So
Yeah.
Let me look that up, but we will say pending receipt of the correct file number. How about that?
Okay.
That would be good. Let's get the correct file number. I wish we had some elevator music we could play right now, but we don't.
Okay, 1
We
second.
put you on hold. You know, get some of that Verizon elevator music when you're waiting for them to come back, you know? We all
Maybe
love
you could
that.
sing, Greg.
Pardon?
Maybe you could sing.
Maybe I could, but I can't. Or let's just say you wouldn't want to hear it. How am I going to check it? You're checking that, right?
I am.
In the meantime, can I ask, so this does,
15. Sorry, Dave, go ahead.
so this means that we'll be closing the hearing at the next meeting?
That would be our intent if everything is in and it's copacetic with what you've been asked.
Okay,
So we, you know, you're gonna-
1539.
hopefully- well, there we go. So amend it to 50, oh, you said 1539.
I said
So the motion
1539.
is in. Do I have a second, please?
Second.
Nick seconded. All those in favor, Nick?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
And I'm I as well. See you on the 16th. And you know, you can come if you want. In this one, yeah, it's up to you. I think it's going to be just fine, but make up your own mind whether you want to appear or not. Maybe not all three of you, even though you're all welcome. We got
All right.
plenty of room on the screen. All right, guys. See you on the 16th.
thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Moving right along,
All right,
we've
thank
got, thank you. We've got an RDA 20-9, 124 Tarbell Springs. We've got a dilapidated fence and a swing set. Have we got Lynn back?
Yes.
Is Lynn back?
She is.
Okay. Okay, who is here? Who is here?
Yep,
That's a
Laura.
different-
Laura and Sam Stearns from 124 Tarbell Spring Road.
Welcome, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. We are, as you mentioned, interested in replacing a rotting split rail fence in our backyard. You can see in the diagram the Tarbell Spring abuts our property line. There's a couple-foot drop from the edge of our lawn to the stream, and we have 3 young children, so replacing the fence is necessary for safety reasons. We're proposing to use an aluminum fence that has 3 3/16 inches between the vertical pickets. And then, yeah, there's a picture. And then the horizontal bar at the bottom is just over 6 inches off the ground, and the pickets go down a bit below that. So wildlife should still be able to move freely, and hopefully it will stop all the balls from falling into the stream. So I think this is really a safety measure for our kids, just given the drop off. Our house is just over 25 feet from the stream, so this area gets a lot of use from kids. In addition, as you mentioned, there's a couple other things within the 25-foot no disturb zone. We want to put a raised bed vegetable garden somewhere around the area where 4 is. We'd like to put a swing set around where the 3 is. The backyard's really the only area for this. The side yard, farther away, is where our leach field is, and it's also sloped. So that won't really work. In terms of the additional things on here, which are beyond the 25-foot no disturb zone, but still well within the 100-foot no buffer zone, are number 5, which is a walkway. So the large rectangle right now is crushed gravel, which just gets thrown everywhere by our kids. A portion of the curved piece is an extension of the paved driveway, and a portion of it is currently dirt. The net increase in impermeable area would be 44 square feet approximately. And we understand that we have to offset that 10 to 1. Yeah, here you can see the walkway. So this paved piece would come out and be replaced by pavement. You can see in picture B here, this little chunk would not be paved. That would be returned to grass or planting.
When you
and
say
this-
pavement, may I just interrupt? When you say pavement, you mean pavers or actual tar? 'Cause
No,
it looks
it'll
like
be
tar now.
it's pavement now. We want to replace it with a patio.
But are they paving? Is the patio, when you say pave, do you mean replacing it with pavement or pavers, which are like bricks?
Paver.
That have,
Pavers.
okay.
Yep.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear on it. Go ahead, please.
Yep. So this area here that you can kind of see outlined in the tape is approximately 44 square feet. So we understand we'd have to do 440 square feet worth of invasive removal and plantings. And we certainly have enough area to do that. Delia came out and we talked about some areas where I could do that. And then the final piece is in our side yard. There are some stumps that we would like to have ground, and there's also poison ivy all through there. So we'd like to have that removed as well. So that's what we have in mind. It's all with the aim of making our yard a little more safe and fun for our kids.
One thing I wanted to just point out, and I'd like you to affirm this, that basically your lawn goes all the way down to the fence.
Correct.
Right. I mean, I just want that on the record, that this entire area has been denaturalized, let's just say.
Yeah.
What are some thoughts of the commissioners at this point? I mean, you've asked for the fence is sort of replacing a fence. You know, swing sets, we do allow them in the 50. I don't know whether we have occurrences to allow them in the 25.
I think, Greg, the fact that it's temporary is sufficient.
Yeah, and the
It's
house is
temporary.
built, and the house is
I
built
just
so
want to raise
close.
issues and chat them through so that we can come to some kind of consensus.
Yeah.
The pavers,
Yeah,
well, they'll also control the stone so they don't migrate. Does anybody have issues with paving the paver, I'll call it gravel, if you don't mind, the gravel area? It looks like they want to create a patio, which I guess would keep it together. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
No concern.
Nope,
no concern.
nope, no concern.
What's that? Lawn edge.
No, and I think
What's
that with the Delia, are we leaving it to staff? You said you've already been on site with the homeowner, excuse me, about either invasives removal of native plantings. You've come to an agreement on that. It's a fairly small amount of space, but significant. I mean, I don't mean to undermine that you're doing that. I think getting rid of poison ivy is a little bit like getting rid of knotweed. A Sisyphean task, but so Delia, you were comfortable with the conversation you had, excuse me.
Sure. So I did meet with Laura and we had a great conversation and talked about different opportunities for wetlands, for invasives removal and native restoration. Laura is going to be coming back with a notice of intent and she wants to make sure that she has enough mitigation to spare for the next project. So we talked about how to balance that a little bit. So I'm very comfortable that she's understanding about, what the NRC requirements are. And, she knows what the invasives are and what replanting is, anticipated. So yes, I'm totally comfortable with this moving forward.
And a waiver was issued for that work on the walkway and what have you that's acceptable.
Right.
Just mentioning that because
Mhm.
that would be required. I don't really, does anyone have any further issues? It's a fully impacted site, so sounds like these would be considered improvements. And by the way, you're trying to protect your kids, we're trying to protect the wetlands, and if we can keep your little Jaspers out of there, we both win, don't we? The public, is there anyone out there in the public that would like to step in on this? This is an RDA, not a notice of intent.
Yep.
Seeing none, do
Yeah,
I
I'll
have a
make a
motion?
I'll make a motion that we move to issue a negative determination for RDA file number 20-9, 124 Tarbell Spring Road. A determination with the following conditions: that the applicant shall provide a list of natives to be planted, and following all work, a letter shall be submitted to the commission confirming compliance with the conditions of the permit.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Was that Ed or Nick?
Ed.
Thanks, Ed. All those in favor, Ed?
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
Nick? Oh, thank you. Len?
Aye.
And I'm aye as well. Hey, we got to do this, guys. It's the rules. Thank you very much, folks. Thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
in. Get on about your biz.
All right.
Moving
thanks a
right
lot.
along. Moving right along to notice of intent, DEP file number 1371540. I feel that I should recuse myself, having somewhat involvement in this, and therefore I'm turning the throne over to Ed, who will do a wonderful job. Thank you for doing this, Ed.
You bet. Thank you, Greg. Okay, so NOI DEP file number 137-1540, 210 Park Lane. Project description is seeking to raise the existing house and associated appurtenances within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands. So I guess seeing some of the staff notes here, I guess, Delia, I guess the first question I'd ask is I think you were going to confirm some of the BVW flags 5 and 6 at the meeting tonight. If you could inform us of that update.
So yes, I can inform you of the update that unfortunately we did not have a chance to get out and review those flags prior to this meeting. I did relay that to the applicant, so that is there. Let's see. They're not shown on this plan, but no, the applicant has indicated their acceptance that if the commission is so inclined to just issue a finding that those flags are not approved under this order, that's acceptable, or we can go out prior to the next meeting and review and come to an agreement on those flags.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have a representative here, or?
Yes, I was going to ask who's representing this. If they could present the issue tonight, that would be appreciated.
Sure. I'm Rich Kirby with LEC Environmental, and with me tonight from Lions Park LLC is Ben Finnegan and company, Jamie Osborne, Bob Riley. Also with me tonight, project engineer Mike Capichetti from Meridian Associates, who prepared the site plan and drainage design. This site is a roughly 1.7 acre site located in the west central portion of town. It's located east of Adams Road, west of the terminus of Musterfield Road, and off the east side of Park Lane. Single family dwellings abut the property to the northwest and south, while there's some undeveloped forested land to the east. As we look at the plan here, you can see the gray outline depicts the existing single family house that's roughly 30 feet 33 feet from the wetland boundary at its closest point. The wetland, of course, being the dark green shaded area delineated by wetland flags 1 through 10. And then, of course, we have the 25, 50, and 100-foot buffer zones extending from that boundary. The scalloped line that surrounds the house is the existing tree line. You can see it there. There's a wooden deck off the back of the house. There's a batting cage, a netted batting cage behind the house. Lawn and landscaped plants throughout, and of course a paved driveway that provides access to the dwelling from Park Lane. The proposed condition, basically we're proposing to tear the house down and build a new house, similar size. The existing house is a ranch style. The proposed house obviously is going to be 2 stories. We have a deck off the back, a walkout patio off the back, relatively, comparatively shorter paved driveway providing access from the street, and some walkways providing access to 2 front entrances. The new house will measure roughly 68 feet from the, or 67.3 feet from the wetland at its closest point, nearly doubling the distance between the structures pre and post condition. In order to elevate the basement as much as possible, but still meet the height requirements required by Town of Concord, roughly 4 feet of fill material will be brought in to elevate the land. You can see there are a couple of retaining walls off the northwest and southeast corners of the dwelling to help mitigate the grade change. Those retaining walls will measure roughly 2 feet tall. Lastly, we have a stormwater infiltration system proposed off the front of the house to infiltrate the difference in stormwater runoff between existing and proposed conditions resulting from the 100-year event. Erosion controls are proposed along the side property boundaries and limits of work. Really no work is proposed within any of the undeveloped portions of the site. All work will occur within existing lawn, landscaped areas, the existing dwelling, developed areas, etc. So that's really all that we're proposing. I'm happy to answer any questions that the commission may have or direct your questions to one of the team members that can answer.
Thank you. Well, obviously, that seems like a significant improvement based on the placement of the new house as against the vegetated wetlands and the setback being increased almost 2 times. So that's a good step. There is also I think your proposal also includes removing 11 trees. If you could kind of explain that a little bit further, that would be appreciated.
Sure. There are, if we go back to the plan of the, most of the trees that are to be removed, if you scroll down a little bit, you can see the little circles with the X's over them. Those are the trees that are going to be removed. Most of them are outside the 100-foot buffer zone. One of them is within the footprint of the dwelling, just bottom left of the proposed deck. And the other 2 are white pine trees that are proposed within the outer part of the buffer zone to the left of the house. Yeah, right there and right there. And those are relatively large white pine trees that are likely close to the end of their life, and obviously a concern with the brand new house being there. So that's really the extent of tree removal proposed.
Thank you. Do any of the other commissioners have any comments on this proposal?
What would be the remediation, if any, for the tree removal within the jurisdiction area?
Well, we hadn't proposed any. We had thought that, given the fact that the new house is so much farther away from the wetland than the existing house, and that the trees were in the outer part of the buffer zone, we really didn't foresee any potential impact to the wetland.
Okay, thank you.
And
I'm sorry, go ahead, Lynn.
I was just going to say, we're going to ask about your invasives removal, your methodology,
Right.
and yeah, documenting that on your plan, quantifying.
We do talk about this.
The numbers.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Did you finish your thought?
Yes.
Okay.
Methodology, quantifying the numbers on the plan.
Sure, sure. Well, there are, following the initial site visit where we delineated the wetlands, I had an opportunity to informally review the site with Ms. Kay. At that time, we identified some Japanese barberry and European buckthorn that appears to occur along the lawn edge off the back left corner of the existing house, if you wouldn't mind sharing the screen. Right, so even if you scroll down just a little bit, there we go. You can see the lawn edge off the back left corner of the existing house, and right along that lawn edge, we had observed several invasive plants. And Ms. Kay suggested that removing those might be a good idea. We didn't quantify it, we just described it in the notice of intent application. You know, typically this might be something that could be quantified at a pre-construction meeting where we could spray paint the actual invasive plants to be removed. You know, we could certainly entertain a special condition requiring one-to-one replacement with native plants that would be appropriate. I would suggest perhaps witch hazel. Those are my thoughts.
That sounds good. And you're going to, I see the area you're restoring to lawn, and then we've got to demarcate that, you know, that no mow line.
Yeah, we actually hadn't proposed to restore the lawn area there. We were going to keep the lawn area as is. But in talking with Ms. Kay and Mr. Finnegan, who's on the line.
Oh, please, Rich, call me Delia.
You're making her feel spinsterish.
Thank you.
We're more than happy to let the lawn area and the 25-foot no disturbance zone go fallow.
Okay, but so my concern was just, I mean, you may, and I appreciate that and don't doubt that. It was just demarcating that.
Sure.
For some future owner, or just making, you know, demarcating that 25 no disturb zone with some sort of pheno marker.
Yes, we're familiar with those. We use them a lot in Lexington, and we'd be happy to do that. And I know the applicant, Ben Finnegan, is familiar with those because we've used those on other projects where we work together.
So we would want that, you know, noted on the plan or added to the plan, however staff would prefer that be.
So I always think it's best to have these things shown on the plan.
Yeah.
And just so it's clear, because the contractor will look at one thing, and that is usually the plan.
Right.
So if you can just put the pheno markers, I would suggest that you put them at the edge of the woodland here, because I don't think they're going to mow in this way.
Yeah, well, the proposed lawn edge does go into the woodland a little bit on that side. You can see where the erosion control bifurcates the light green from the Kelly green.
So is this a change in the wood line?
Yeah, there is a bit of a change there.
And
Okay.
Mike Cappuccetti, Meridian Associates, that was accounted for in our drainage analysis, to the change of land cover.
Cover
And
type? Okay.
we have no problem having the pheno markers as part of the of a condition or anything. As Rich said, we use pheno markers constantly. I just ordered 30 of them to get delivered to our office. So,
Good.
yeah.
So rather than a condition, it should be shown on the plan, so it's
Yes.
clear where those will be located, and it's not left up in the air.
Yeah.
So
you and I can talk offline about what
all of this is also going to be cleared.
Yes, it's. I wouldn't necessarily call it naturally wooded at the moment. It's more of a fallow landscaped area that has trees in it. We
Okay,
saw
but the only trees that will be removed are these two trees.
in the buffer zone, yes, and then there are a couple, there's one, just,
I
that
see
one.
that. Okay, so to accommodate for this removal, then I really do think that this definitely needs to be memorialized.
Yep,
Where the limit of mowing is going to be,
yep.
and also where the invasive removal areas are proposed.
Yes, I think what we'll do is we'll cloud the area along the lawn edge that you and I had reviewed and discussed. We'll add some notes about the removal method. Typically, shovels and rakes, or sometimes they're winched out with a chain.
So I think all of this can be done with, just hand removal. I don't think the commission is going to want to see heavy equipment.
Oh yeah, sure. No, right. It would just, there wouldn't be any heavy
Cut and dab for larger specimens.
Okay.
Good.
Okay.
Do we need a 25-foot waiver for removing the batting cage in the 25-foot no disturb zone? I don't know what all is involved in that, but I think we typically do request a waiver.
I don't think there's really any alteration to the land to remove the batting cage. It sits on top of a lawn area, and it would just be dismantled or cut and then removed.
And
There's
that'll
no
all be done by hand?
Or if you include power tools by hand, yes.
Yeah, I mean, not like a bobcat going back and taking it out.
I don't think so. Ben, I don't know if you want to talk to that. Are you on the line? How do you propose to remove the batting cage?
Yeah, Ben Finnegan here. We wouldn't use any heavy machinery to remove the batting cage.
You just kind of pick it up and carry it out?
Kind of disassemble it by hand, I assume.
Yeah, it comes apart, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's not down into the soil or no footings?
No.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments by the commissioner?
I like the color coding on the drawing. It made it much easier to see. Thank you.
You can thank Mike for that.
Okay, much appreciated.
Okay, is there any public comment on this proposal? Delia, I'll count on you to see if there's any out there.
I don't see any.
Okay. So do we have I guess obviously the plans need a little bit of cleanup as regarding invasives, some phenol markers. So do we have a motion to continue this to September 16th?
I'll move. Move to continue hearing for 210 Park Lane, DEP file number 1371540 until the September 16th meeting.
Second, this is Judy.
Thank you, Judy. Okay, we'll take a vote. Nick?
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye.
And I am aye as well. Thanks very much.
If I could just ask one question, if we add the information needed, is there any way that we could also have the order of conditions or, prepared for that meeting to close it? So,
Right, so as long as you get the required, the information in by Friday
okay, will do.
Of this week.
noon, then you'll be on the agenda just for a closed issue and no need for anyone to attend that meeting. It'll just be on the agenda to close an issue.
Okay, I appreciate everybody time tonight. Thank you so much.
That's this Friday by noon, correct, Delia?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Greg. Let me see if I can find Greg.
I think he's back now.
Did you call me back?
Yes,
Oh, okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
we can.
All right. The host would like you to unmute. I don't care what the host wants. Okay. Now, moving right along, let me get back here. I was in the other room doing something. 52 Temple, DEP, we don't have a number. Is that
Nope.
true?
Yeah.
All right. We need, who's here to talk about this?
This is Chris Lucas with Lucas Environmental.
Chris, welcome.
How you doing? Thank you for your time this evening. I also have Dylan James on the phone with Patriot Custom Homes, the applicant for the project.
Mm-hmm.
We are here tonight for the after-the-fact NOI filing for some minor clearing in the 100-foot buffer zone. 52 Temple Road is a small, approximately 1.2 acre lot with an existing house, driveway, landscaped areas on the property. There are residential areas to the north and south. Temple Road is located to the east of the parcel, and I apologize for the pronunciation of this if I get it wrong, but Honorsnock Pond is located to the west.
Oh my God, did you butcher that?
How do you say it?
Honorsnock?
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm sorry for interrupting, Chris. Go.
So the site is generally flat along the residential area in the driveway, and then there's a steep slope down towards the pond, towards the west. There's a small fringe of plustron forested shrub swamp along the edge. It's discontinuous. Some portions are vegetated with other areas are just primarily the bank of the pond. The site is not located in rare species habitat. It's not located in an area of critical environmental concern or an outstanding resource water. There's no floodplain located on the site as it's been determined to be Zone X on the current FEMA mapping. The primary resources on the site consist of the bordering vegetated wetland to the pond, as well as the bank, which was delineated. The pond also contains land under water bodies and waterways, which was not formally delineated. Susan MacArthur of MacArthur Environmental originally delineated the site on May 23rd with flag numbers B1 through B1-100 to 109 for the bank and W1-95 to 103 for the wetland. Joe Orzel, professional wetland scientist from my office, went out on July 22nd to verify the line as Ms. MacArthur's moved on to other work and referred us to the project to work with Patriot Custom Homes. He added flags 104 and 105 to the south to ensure we had the entire section. Several of the flags weren't originally surveyed, so we wanted to make sure we had the entire line on the property. There is an existing building permit for the work for the house, which is 132 feet from the wetland at its closest point. On May 20th, the commission issued a violation notice for the clearing on the property. On June 16th, Patriot Custom Homes submitted a topographic plan as requested in the violation notice, which is primarily shown in front of you. It shows all the trees that were clear cut from the property without authorization. What happened in speaking with Mr. James, who's here to answer any questions you may have, they were using an old plan and they actually measured out 100 feet from the line shown on the old plan. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, it didn't show the BW fringe or the wetland maybe didn't exist. I don't know. All I know is the line was based off the bank, so that roughly 90 to 95 feet away from the wetland, there was some clearing. As you can see on this plan, there are two stumps shown. One is a 20-inch red oak, which was approximately 94 feet from the wetland, and the other stump was a 12-inch red maple that was cleared in the buffer 98 feet from the wetland. During Mr. Orzel's site visit, we also noted that there were 6 white pines, 1 5-inch diameter and 5 1-inch diameters were cut in that little area. It's bubbled in red on the plan, as Delia is showing you. That's our proposed restoration area. We didn't observe any erosion issues, and it was very minimal to no ground disturbance with the soil, so the remaining area is intact. Straw wattles have been put in place around the limit of work at the limit of the 100-foot buffer to prevent any further encroachment into this area. Spoke with Delia before we filed the notice of intent to discuss the mitigation, and what we have in front of you now is a 1-to-1 mitigation. red oak and the 12-inch red maple that were lost. We're proposing to replace in kind with a minimum 2-inch caliper trees. And we're also proposing 6 white pines, a minimum of 4 feet in height, to replace the smaller trees that were lost. As there was no soil disturbance, we don't feel that seeding disturbed the area further, so we feel that's more than appropriate. And with that, we would open up to the board for any questions and look to having, hopefully find this acceptable.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chris. I think that was well defined. Yeah, it's too bad. I mean, you're a few feet one way or another. You probably would have, if you came in for a tree removal, you'd have gotten it without any heavy lifting. But I don't have any particular questions. I do just want to let the owner know that from what I hear, the person who was operating machinery out there who was asked to stop was very rude to the NRC staff, and we actually had to get the authorities involved to make him cease and desist. And I think the owner ought to know that someone ought to speak to that operator, because that's unacceptable. Other than that, I have no comment. I think your plan makes up for all the problems, but I did want it on the record that had happened. Now, commissioners have any other questions?
No.
No.
Public have any thoughts or questions? Please. That's me at 4858, by the way. So, seeing none, we don't have an order together yet. Do we have an order ready tonight? We don't. So
we do
will,
not. Sorry.
So
Greg.
I guess what I would say to you guys is we will make a motion to continue this to the 16th, and at that time I would be confident the commission was going to close an issue, and you wouldn't have much of any issue. You can certainly welcome to come, but I really don't see a need for you folks to come.
Mr. Chair.
Can we close the hearing tonight? Because we have all the information we need.
Mm-hmm.
And a file number. There is a file number for this. We'll close the hearing.
There is a file number. It's 137-1541. Sorry.
Right.
Well, if there's any conditions that will be put on them, we don't have those in front of us.
Correct.
Okay.
So how do we issue without knowing what? I mean, I don't envision any.
So not to issue, but I think if you're comfortable to close the hearing because you're not anticipating new information coming in, you can close and.
I'd love to do that.
Applicant some level of comfort that.
Then I'd love to do that. Could I get a motion to that regard?
Thank you.
Make a
Judy,
motion
please.
to. Yeah, I make a motion to close the hearing for notice of intent, 52 Temple Road, DEP file 1371541.
Do I have a second?
Nick seconds.
Nick seconded it. All those in favor, Lynn?
Aye.
I'm going to vote now. Aye. Judy?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
It's unanimous. We have closed. I assume issuing will happen on the 16th. So now we need a motion to continue. If that's satisfactory to you, the petitioners, will continue to the 16th to issue. So do I have a motion?
Make a motion to continue DEP file 1371541 for, that's 52 Temple Road to September 16th, 2020, so that we can issue the order of conditions.
I see Ed is seconding it by nodding his head, correct?
Correct.
All those in favor, Lynn?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
And I'm aye as well. Thank you guys for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Moving right along, we have to amend an order of conditions, DEP file number 137-1449 at 315 Elm Street. We have some alterations needed around the house. Who is here to speak to this issue?
Rob McGoey, I am the homeowner, and Robert Young, who who's our general contractor on this. Robert, are you on?
Robert Young, I see him there, but he's muted.
And I'm trying to start my video, but it says you cannot start your video because the host has stopped it. So apologies that I look like.
Yeah,
So
oh, really?
I'm good. So I'm going to share the information that you've provided us with. Is there a video that I got some photos from Robert Young?
Well, can you allow him to put his face up on?
What up, Greg?
Well, he's on the screen, but we can't see him. So, Robert, can you put yourself up?
So you just need to, you can start your video.
Start my video, okay.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear
There
you.
you go.
Yeah.
There you
Okay,
go.
good.
Welcome.
So you got Robert, who's the contractor, and you got Rob, the homeowner, just to make it confusing. I apologize.
Yeah, okay.
So we have a request to amend an existing order of conditions. There are three components to this. The first one is to add some mulch in the lower area of the property at the back of the house. That's the red hatched area as shown there. There's existing grass that we would replace with mulch. And the mulch that we're planning on using is playground mulch that is specifically manufactured to be safe for kids to chew on and eat without hurting them in any way. It's free of any dyes or chemicals or additives or anything like that. It just purely consists of wood, cedar and pine chips. So it's safe, and so this is what we're planning on using for this area. The total area is about approximately 1,300 square feet. And do you want me to discuss these just one at a time or just run the whole thing? What's the best way of doing this?
Well, I would just go through, we've all read your, and just go through for everybody in the public or anybody that's watching that hasn't had a chance to look at this exact. I mean, you're going to put a fence around, you're going to put a gravel pull-off area. Just briefly go through those things. I don't think you need to belabor them, but sure.
Sure. Okay. So the first item is the mulch in the lower area. The second item is to put in a chain link fence. I've been working on the job site for Rob for a couple of weeks now, putting in a patio, and I can personally attest to the presence of three very energetic, adventurous children. One of them is age 3, and he loves to sort of go anywhere. So the primary purpose of this fence is safety. And what we have is as a well-defined edge of the lawn. The lawn extends down to an existing silt fence. And there are two places where the edge of the lawn as well as the siltation barrier extend into the 50-foot no-build zone. So what we would like to do is to install a fence that would keep children from entering into the wetland area. This particular area has lots of trees. It's densely forested. There are a lot of trees that are sort of half falling over. One is leaning against the other. And so if kids are climbing up this, it's a pretty dangerous area. And so we don't want to have kids running through the wetlands. So the idea is to install a fence along the edge of the lawn that would allow for migration of natural wildlife, but not allow for migration of human wildlife. We could, as an alternative, run the fence along the existing silt fence and then away from the silt fence to stay away from the 50-foot no-build zone. The problem with that is that the fence then would sort of go in and out, and it would not provide a well-defined boundary, and the kids could still climb over it. And so we would like something that follows the edge of the grass. It's a well-defined boundary that would best deter them from climbing over. There's no vegetation in this area. It's already, there's already grass there. So we're not changing the vegetation or anything like that. We're just putting the fence right along the edge of the grass. But the primary issue is safety, and we've proposed putting in 10-to-1 mitigation. So we'd put some plants along the driveway and in a large area to mitigate that area. And then the third issue is putting in a 30-foot by 30-foot parking area. It's just gravel. We would modify the grade slightly to make it a little bit flatter, and it would be bordered by a very low retaining wall if necessary, and a few steps bringing it up to the grade. So that's basically it. And this is a list here of the native species plants that we would put in for the mitigation.
Thank you very much. I guess I have to speak to the fact that this site, as it's one of 3 lots that was extensively discussed, and the margins here were minimal at best to even get this in here. And there was a great deal of discussion about setbacks and 50 foot and it balanced pretty much on a pinhead to get this to happen. I personally am quite reluctant to allow any structure in the 50 as a result of that. Not this issue, but it was mentioned by myself and others that, you know, when you get tight sites like this, new buyers, and I don't blame you, Rob, at all for wanting to enhance the property and keep your children safe, makes complete practical sense. But I think if you'd be willing to cooperate and in that shaded area that is playground mulch, to just don't go in the 50, I'm a really happy camper. How do the rest of the commissioners feel?
And also maybe move the fence in a bit to get it out of the 50?
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about the mulch.
So the fence
Okay.
controls it. Yeah, I mean, I really, it would be a concession that you would make. It would be compatible with much of the discussion when this site was improved, with 2 new structures and a remodeled structure. And I hope that you would understand that from our standpoint, that I'm reluctant to now go beyond what we had agreed to with the builder at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I completely agree. Yeah, and the kids are gonna climb over the fence whether they do or not, whether it's in the 50 or not. So for us, that's pretty meaningful. So you can change the yard edge to delineate if that's your concern, but the fence needs to be out of the 50.
Yeah.
And the mitigation, I don't find that particularly persuasive. It doesn't, you know, they're native plants, but it's not, you know, along a driveway isn't particularly enhancing any sort of habitat value that I can see on the site. So that I don't find that particularly persuasive.
So first of all, look, we just moved from New York City to here, so this is all new to me. So
you're gonna love it.
I appreciate that.
After this,
the fence serves. So the fence is to we have young kids. They're 6, 4, and 19 months, and it's to keep them off of Elm Street as much as it is to keep them out of the wetlands. It's a fast road. My middle son has lots of services. So Robert is very kind in describing him as active, but he's beyond active. So there's a practical nature to the fence. So we're not building a fence just to have the kids climb over it. We're building it to keep them safe. I guess the mitigation, there is wetlands behind it, but again, I'm way out over my ski tips if I'm trying to understand or explain to you why I think that's an appropriate mitigant. So I'm not going to even stray in there. I guess on the fence line, but we would, like, I'm very open to that discussion. We want to keep the area natural. We love the natural look of the woodlands. We're not trying to create an ornamental garden. You know, that's not the purpose here. On the fence, I guess in the 2 areas it crosses over in the 50 foot, one area, it's pretty easy to put it outside the 50 foot. and let it run. We lose a bit of existing lawn. I don't
Could you
really.
put that up again? Excuse me, sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt
sure.
you, but-
Robert, would you throw it
Yeah.
up there for a sec? So in the area, I can't point to it, but Robert, I wonder if you could, in the area that's if you see the back flat edge where the fence is going to be, if you just come down, there's that slight crossover here where
Right,
Robert,
that's the, there are two areas. The southwest corner of the lot, right where the cursor is there, yes, right there. You can see the 50-foot line extending inside the proposed fence. And that's actually the largest of the two areas. It's about 300 square feet, but that's about 200 square feet. Up next to the corner of the house, the right rear corner of the house is another spot. And that spot's only, that's pretty small. It's about 20 feet long by a few feet wide. So it's maybe 60 square feet or something like that. That one's pretty small. That one is the most important.
Right, that smaller area back there is the one where the fence would run, you know, off the side of the house, basically in a straight line where the existing mulch meets where the existing mulch bed meets the lawn and crosses out to the silt fence. If we have to track the no build line and there, it's going to be a very odd cutoff, and we're going to lose a bunch of area that would otherwise be kind of under mulch and play area. So that one, you know, and well, look, I totally understand. And if you know, I guess my question is there a middle ground where we can keep that, maintain the existing mitigation plan, or discuss whether it's enough? But you know, the other area I care less about. It can move in. We lose some of that. That's fine. We can even plant in that area as well with species. Is there a middle ground? And apologies again, I don't know if it's appropriate to.
I think we usually seek middle grounds where we can, frankly, Robert. And I guess it's followed by the word "but" in this particular example, in the sense that I think it flies in the face of the discussions that we had in multiple meetings in this site, discussing and working and weaving and moving driveways a couple of feet and doing all this stuff to make it work because of what we were told were immovable problems. And then to have this come back to us that you want to put a fence in the 50-foot, it's very difficult for me to get my head around the actual need of it, whereas it is an extraordinarily small piece in either corner. I look at it in reverse and say, oh, if it's such a small piece, the kids won't miss it either. And I don't mean to be picking on your kids whatsoever. And if this hadn't had such an extensive discussion in this regard, or this had had some time to work it out as a problem, and I think this is really an elective that you're asking for, and it's an appreciated elective, but it's difficult for me as commissioner to go back and rework this for an elective like this, to be frank. Okay. I don't know. I can be persuaded, but my brain is, oddly enough, usually not this fixated, but it really is. I don't know. What do the rest of the commissioners think?
Well, I think, as you said, Greg, it's difficult for us, and unfortunately for the homeowner who didn't experience the permitting process that we went through, that we really spent a lot of time on this, on a difficult accommodation for this property to be developed. And I don't see any more wiggle room. And to me, again, I understand if I was the homeowner, I would feel differently, I'm sure, but that's a small area.
I mean, this, just so you understand, you know, it got permitted with the discussion that we're keeping everything outside of the 50, there'll be nothing in the 50, but da-da-da-da. And then within a year or so, something's being requested of us, which is an elective and an understandable elective that does it precisely what was promised to get all this permitted. So it puts us in a very tough position, Robert. We sound like hard necks, but I don't know if there's.
Look, yeah, Mr. Higgins, I did my diligence. Your reputation is not in Concord to be hard neck, so I know this commission works with homeowners very, very collaboratively. So look, I don't have the background, but I'm getting a sense for how much potentially this site was already balancing on a needlehead already. So I get that. I did not have that context, unfortunately. I guess, look, I know you've read it and I'm sure you've seen the pictures, but I'll say it only because you said maybe I could be convinced. So my personality will be, I'll take one last shot. But the only thing I just want to be clear about is that where we are proposing to put the fence is against the existing silt line, and in that area that crosses over the 50-foot line, that is already under loam and seed in the existing plot that we bought. So there, just to be clear, and I'm doubtful that it's persuasive, but just that wasn't overlooked in any way. We are not removing anything. There's no existing species there. It is loam and seed right now, and what we would put a fence up against, and you could see that in the photos. But anyway.
I fully understand from your vantage point the logic of why you did, I've got no argument with you. You've got me in this very awkward spot of I think I've described it. I think we were I think at least four, maybe all five of us were involved. It was quite a bit. I mean, neighbors, behind and around. I mean, I think it's all come out just fine. But they were questioning, and it was a big deal to get this chewed in here, such that everything was outside the 50, and that was one of those safe, safe situations that we're coming here and we're going to put a fence in there. It would red face me to vote that way and say, wow, well, I guess I wasn't serious when we had all those discussions.
Yeah. I think
I don't know what else to say. Ed, Judy, please help me out.
Yeah, I guess the only Rob, the one distinguishing thing between it being under loam and seed and a fence is considered a structure, which is what our concern is that it's no build, so it's considered a structure. Similarly, we don't allow irrigation heads within the 50 because that's a structure. So just wanted to throw that out, as that's the distinguishing feature between the lawn and a fence.
That's why that's the whole hassle here, is that the fence is considered that structure, and it didn't pre-exist. I mean, there was no, there's nothing for us to hang our hat on. Ed, do you have any thoughts on this?
No.
Or Nick?
I agree with your position.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree too. I mean, especially if this went through, if I was involved in this, it happened just as I was coming on the commission, and I don't recall it. I certainly wasn't part of the long discussions. But these processes, just for Rob's benefit, they do involve the comments of the abutters. And, it's a decision we're making, not just on this piece of land, but it's a decision for the town and its regulations, but also for the neighborhood, what the interests are. And, it was understood that these were the rules when this was agreed. So that's one of the things that makes it hard to change now.
Understood.
Yeah, it really does.
Okay. Well, look,
I hope you're understanding. I hope you understand, Robert and Rob. It pains me to tell you can't, go in 120 feet, for 120 foot square. I mean, it seems like I'm standing on a very sharp principle that I don't want to get cut by.
Look, I can tell by the unanimity of the decision that you believe this is the right decision. So I'm going to respect that. I appreciate your consideration. I'm not going to pretend I'm not disappointed, but I'm sure we'll come up with a plan B. And just for clarity, for my purposes, so it is the fence in both of those areas that is that the sole issue with
that's the thorn. That's the thorn.
Okay. And then, so do we, just as a matter of process, again, is it okay to ask a question around that? As a matter of process, then, do we have to resubmit amended plans, or do we just go, okay, I get it, we will not put the fence inside that area and we can proceed, or how do we go from here?
Robert, could you possibly by Friday get that line changed on those two corners?
Yes. Well, let me see. Are you, the engineering plan does not show the fence, the location. Well, it doesn't show the, could you put the engineering plan back up again, Delia? It does not show that overlap. Oh, so what you're saying is have the fence changed to follow along that 50-foot buffer zone.
Right, so take it
Gotcha,
out from
gotcha.
here.
Right, I would have to talk
Take it out from here.
I would have to talk to the engineer. They were very responsive and did this within a few days. So I can give them a call tomorrow and then let Delia know how quickly I can get a response. But based on what they did for me last week in a relatively short period of time, I think there's a good chance they could help.
Yeah, so typically our deadline is Friday at noon for revised materials. This is so minor that we would take it, if there's any challenge with that, we would take it, by Monday.
Okay.
And if the revised plan included a fence up to the 50-foot line and plantings of natives to effectively create a fence line up along the silt fence where it's over the 50-foot line, so it's a fence outside 50 foot, it's natives inside 50 foot, and then it's fence again outside, and that was our plan B. Does that sound tolerable if that were on a resubmitted plan, or does that need to go back on an agenda for a later discussion?
So
in effect, you're saying take that area and fence it in with vegetation.
Correct. Create a line of native species to effectively act as.
As long as Delia's fine with the species, I don't see a problem with that at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
As long as, sorry, Lynn.
No, I'm agreeing that would be a really good solution if you wanted you needed physical demarcation. We're understanding where you're going with this. And if you want to create that with natives, and you can come up with a fairly good list of the species, some of which grow fairly big.
A question on Rob's behalf. Which is Rob? Is it Robert McGully? Anyway.
I'm Rob. Yeah, I'm Rob.
And I'm Robert, and this is Rob.
Okay. So a question on Rob's behalf.
I've been doing it backwards.
While those shrubs are coming in, or whatever they are, while they're growing to the point where they really would provide an effective barrier, could he put some sort of temporary fencing in for some limited period of time? In other words, no foundations, no footings, just something that's sat on the earth.
No,
is that a structure? I'm ignorant. That's a structure.
Yeah.
I think it's best just to put, so native plantings, I think, are the right solution.
Okay.
And Rob, I can give you a list of what, anything that's native is something that's acceptable to put in that location or in both those locations, if that's what you want.
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully something thorny to keep my children inside. Okay.
Unfortunately, poison ivy is not native. Oh no, I guess
it is. It is native. Yeah.
We could put some hawthorns in there. They have some nice long thorns.
Right. Right. I need to go out to the public and make sure there isn't somebody out there. I don't think I can't. Is there anyone out there?
Yes, there's public here. There's public here.
Yo, great, super. Let me hear.
Yeah. Terrence McCourt, 110 Neshoba Road.
Yes.
So I'm the immediate abutter by the retaining wall.
Yeah.
When when you talk about disappointed homeowners, you can start with me, because I was amazed that the commission allowed. And this, Rob, this is no offense to you. Welcome to the town, but you have to understand where that house was sited vis-a-vis the woods that have been back there forever. was just amazing. But that's water over the bridge. Obviously, it happened, and it was very disappointing, but it happened. My question is concerning the fence that runs on that part of our property that's in common there by the retaining wall. When you talk about substituting the fence with native species, are we talking about just by the new play area or down by the retaining wall as well?
No, I was talking just about the two areas that are shown where the red line is inside that dotted line. They demark the areas inside the 50-foot. My understanding is that the retaining wall is inside the 50-foot. There's quite a drop off the back of the retaining wall, and the plan was to run the fence basically along the top of the retaining wall. So on top of the retaining wall that's there. So not behind it, where it's effectively, you know, woods and wild, but on top of the retaining wall. Mostly because there's a drop. There's maybe a 3.5 foot drop off the back of that wall. And
no,
that
I understand the drop. I understand the drop there. That's my property. And the reason the drop is there is because you're built up the property so high off the existing grade. So in terms of the fence that goes along the retaining wall, can I ask, is the intent to have a metal, a silver chain link fence, or would it be possible to have, say, a black or a green chain link fence?
It will be black or green. We're looking for something that will blend as much as possible with the background. So as least, because also, you know, selfishly, the view off the back of our property is into the woods, and it's beautiful. So I you know, we want something that you effectively will blend as much as possible. So it would be, you know, wooden posts, likely cedar, not painted, that will, you know, come more gray over time, and then a black or green and square as opposed to triangles, because it's visibly more, you know, kind of disappears into the background. So that's the intent.
Just a couple of other thoughts on the fence design. The intent is to use a very lightweight fence. So we would have 4x4 cedar posts that would just become, you know, not painted or anything, to just be natural, about 8 feet apart. On top of that retaining wall, a very lightweight black metal fence, a wire fence that would have the least amount of presence, but also immediately in front of it, we would install some plants, and the plants over time would grow through the fence, so that the idea would be in a relatively short time, within a few years, that the plants would grow to the point where the fence more or less becomes invisible from both sides along that retaining wall.
Okay, I appreciate that clarification, because the way I read the plan was it was a proposed chain link fence.
The term, I did use the word chain link at one point, and that was actually an error on my part. It's a lightweight wire fence that has, you know, rectangular spaces in them. But we would use the lightest fence material that we could find that's black, that would not be silver, so that it would blend in, so that neither you nor Rob would see it over time as the plants grow in.
Okay, well, we certainly appreciate that clarification. We were sort of concerned about a silver chain link fence, but what you're describing sounds very appropriate. So thank you for that.
Sure.
Thank you, Terrence, and sorry.
Thank you for your comment.
So
and just one other comment. I'm curious,
yeah,
is the goal to try and get this done this fall before the winter? I mean, if you get your approvals and stuff?
We would, you know, every day we let our kids run outside. They're down the driveway near Elm and whatever. So yes, it would be to get it done, like literally in hopefully within weeks. I'm looking at Robert, but yes. Okay, Terrence, thank you, and
thank you, Rob.
Apologies. I wish we had a history lesson before we came into this, but this is all news to me.
No, totally understandable. No, I didn't mean to be the least bit offensive towards you.
No, you're not. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Terrence. Thank you for your question.
And
Any other comments from anyone out there?
I just want a little clarification with this fence line. along the southern edge. The retaining wall is shown here. So I think if the intention is that the is placed on top of the retaining wall,
We should show that.
We should shift it up, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have the engineer change that to show it above the wall.
Okay,
Good
so
point.
the engineer
Good point,
should
Julie.
revise that so that it's above the wall. I don't know, that's fine. But then, like in, the mulch in this area should also be pushed out of
Pulled back.
Correct.
So just to clean that up a little bit so that everything is outside of the 50 and this section of fence is on the retaining wall as proposing to do it.
If I might ask, if you're going to have an engineer work on this, just to throw an idea out there, is a note on the plan saying the fence to be completely outside the 50-foot buffer zone.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
that so that anybody you hire, which I guess is you, Rob, but anybody that looks at this understands that they should therefore ask, oh, by the way, what's that mean? Where is that? And pay attention to it. That's all.
Right.
I mean,
And
the
then-
plan is what everybody's going to look at. Nobody's going to look at any narratives in some file cabinet somewhere.
Right. And one more question for you. When the engineer revises the plan, should he also include the strip of planting that we're going to put inside the buffer zone in those two spots along the edge of the lawn? Or does that not need to be included here in the
So
engineering
do you
plan?
mean that the areas of the plantings, the
I
native?
think that's an elective, and I don't think we'd have any objection to that. I don't think it needs to be on the plan.
Okay.
It's not.
As long as it's noted that any plantings within the 100-foot are going to be native, I think you want to include a
Correct.
note that says that.
Gotcha. Okay. Very good.
They must be native, otherwise they have to get, shown on the plan and reviewed.
And Delia, I think the existing order of conditions says if there's any uncovered area, it needs to be either under loam and seed or under mulch. So in that area that will not be fenced, but will be inside the 50-foot, I wasn't.
This area?
Robert, can you go up to whoever's got up
I've
there?
got it.
In that small area there, so we will not have the fence that will run along the line, but the intention was still to mulch that. And as Robert said, I think he explained it all, but with a permeable surface on it. But is there an objection to having that area under mulch as opposed to loam and seed?
Yeah, so you need to show the areas that will be mulched. So this flat area is what you have shown as being mulched.
Yeah.
And this area here, because it's you've got quite a steep slope coming down. Mulch.
There's no mulch going there, just in the red striped area.
Okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Yeah.
So I thought you were talking about mulching this area.
No, just
this area.
Just this area.
Right.
Correct.
Yep.
Yes.
Right. And that's all flat.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry,
Correct.
I misunderstood.
I did as well. So no, I think what you're showing is what we understand, and
okay, great.
The hatched area is the mulched area, and the rest of it will be loamed and seeded. So I think the replacement of the mulch in this area is acceptable.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, great.
All right. So if you can get that in the next few days, if you take a little bit long, it's very minor changes. The reason we have a Friday is so that staff will have time to review, but that seems like a pretty minor alteration. It's almost embarrassingly minor. All right, so I say we continue. If it's all right with you, I'm going to seek a motion to continue to the 16th. And if everything's buttoned up with the plan with the 2 notes on it and the fence moved, I think we will be able to move forward at that point. So that's my general consensus, and I think I see the commission thinks so too. So could I have a motion for a continuance, please?
I make a motion to continue to September 16th, 2020, a request to amend notice of intent, New England stonemasonry at 1315 Elm Street, DEP file 1371449.
Thank you. Thank you for your
I
time.
need a second.
Second.
Okay, I had 2 seconds. I'll give Lynn she was there first, I think. I'm not really sure. All those in favor, Lynn?
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I'm aye as well. Rob, welcome to Concord, and I'm glad you got out of New York, and things will be smooth sailing from here, I'm sure, in Concord. It's a great town. Welcome to Concord.
Thank you very much, and thank you everybody for your time. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Thanks, Rob.
All righty.
Let's see, moving along, we are, where are we? Ooh, did I skip one?
Nope.
Nope, we're at
Good.
close an issue.
Yep.
Close an issue. Town of Concord, 369, 338A and 40A Com Ave, DEP 1371522. We need a close an issue. Who's got that?
Oh, I will. Can we do both?
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm happy to do both.
I make a motion that we close an issue DEP file number 1371522 and DEP file number 1371535.
Do I have a second?
Second, Nick.
Nick seconded. All those in favor, Nick? Ed?
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
And Lynn?
Aye.
And I'm aye as well. COC, Signs Development and Permitting, LLC, 140 Comerford Road, DEP 137-1269. I might say at this point that I did sell a few of these properties in there, but I don't think it affects at all the determination that the project is finished. That's out of my control. It's the staff that tells us that. So could I get a motion on that one?
Again, can I just do them all together?
Oh, absolutely.
So I move that we issue certificates of compliance for DEP file number 1371351, DEP file number 1371269, and DEP file number 1371472.
Nick seconds.
Thank you, Nick. Nick seconded. Can I just clarity? Are we ready on the museum to issue? Delia?
Oh, excuse me,
So
that's right. That came in late, excuse me. So I would amend my motion to strike DEP file number 1371351 as being premature. But I would
And
move,
Nick seconded that. And so we're now voting on the two.
Yep.
We're just voting on CLCs for the two. All those in favor? Judy?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I'm aye as well. Thank you. That was unanimous. We have administrative approvals. We got Timbers at 963 Lowell Road and 38 Black Duck. Delia.
So there are two, at 963 Lowell Road, there are 5 trees that the homeowner would like to remove because of possible hazard. They're all in the 100-foot buffer zone. At Packard, 38 Black Duck, there are 2 trees within the 100-foot buffer zone that are also being requested for removal for hazard concerns. And we don't have any issues from a staff concern on any of these removals.
Anyone have any thoughts or issues?
No.
Hearing none, take them. Do we need to vote on these? No.
You don't. Nope.
No, it's just, so it looks like, according to my agenda, we're finally through this. This is a long one, guys.
So I think that just under other business, I think that Lynn wanted to.
Yeah. I'd like to raise, I just would like to make a statement, I suppose, for the record. If I can do this, I'd like to recognize the service of Jamie Bemis to the town.
Oh, goodness.
As most of you know, Jamie served on the NRC for more than one term, including as chair for 2 years. And as chair, she was pivotal in advocating for and providing leadership that resulted in the adoption of the wetlands bylaw by the town in 2009. And I think that that effort, it had previously been unsuccessful despite many efforts. And that was a fitting example of Jamie's unrelenting commitment to any task she took on for the better good. And Jamie's tragic death is a loss to Concord and to all of us who had the privilege of knowing her. And we send her deep condolences to her wonderful family.
Thank you for that, Lynn. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
It's very appropriate. Thank you. Yeah, she is a friend of many. I guess with that, we will adjourn. That's kind of a bummer note, but it is really tragic. It is terrible. Thank you all very much. See you next time, same bat station, and we carry on. Thank you all. Good evening.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you.